Dang, it's over there. How far are we doing? We're like 54. Yep. Alright. Can I lift the window open? Alright. Marion, Lawful, welcome. Kem, Lawful, welcome. Justin, Lawful, evening. Hope everyone is doing well. We are going to get started shortly. Kwaku, Lawful, greetings, welcome. Hope everybody's doing well. You know what I say? I want to touch on a couple topics, you know. But can't really touch them just yet. Zine? We are approaching the end of stage 1. Excuse me. We have only a few more things to complete. And once they are complete, stage 2 is going to be announced. Sasha, Lawful, greetings. Welcome, welcome. And soon we will see why it is exactly I did not disclose some of the details earlier. Why did they fight me? Ooh. You want to fly the throat yet? May I come? Why don't I fight the eye? Don't I fight the eye? Nonetheless, we are still on the path. Same way. Jaja. Jaja. I want to still do them something there, knock people back. Jaja. So it goes still. Anytime I do something, what them say, good or important, you always get a fight. Grand evening Kruger. Wagwan. Kruger, what a name. Anytime you do something good or something important, you always get a fight. Right? So, that being said, you know, I talk about this before. There are many groups out there, and these groups, they can try, but it's not going to work. Trying to block the throat chakra. You know, say many groups out there, you know, and my people, sometimes it is not lack of knowledge why we suffer. It is headache. It is hard-headed. There are some people out there who they feel that they are right. They feel like what they are doing is the path ahead, even though whatever they are doing is not working. They still believe with a little bit more persistence, they will have a breakthrough. I mean, I talk about whole heap of groups in Jamaica. You have the one-man army. You have those that are pushing a certain narrative. You have those who are loud, just want to run out there with them machete and make some bag of noise and thing. You have some of them who want action right now. You have some of them who don't want no part of the system. They don't want to have nothing to do with the system, but yet still, them have ID, them at work, them do other things within the system, but they don't want to have nothing to do with it. And again, everybody is entitled to their own opinion. I am not bashing anyone. I am not telling nobody that they are wrong. I am not here to correct nobody. If you feel like you are right, if you feel like what you are doing is 100% the best way to go, do it. By all means. Even when it's not working, you know, I encourage you to do what you feel is best in your interest. Right? But there's one thing that I know, you know, and it is that, you see, when a fire starts, that is not the time to look for water. When you have a moving train, that is not the time to try to stop it. So, that's why I always tell people on my posts, on my lives, online, I am a student of knowledge. I am a student of learning. And I am a solutions-oriented individual. So, it is not a matter of being right. I don't have to be right. If you don't feel I am right, that is okay. I don't need to prove nothing to nobody. But guess what? I always show you the evidence, don't I? Always I go show you why me hold the position with me hold. If you still feel I am wrong, so bring your evidence. I'm not in the opinionated thing. If you are of an opinion, that's cool. You can go ahead and you can run with your opinion. But for me, we don't depend on that. We don't do that over here. If you don't have facts, if you don't have evidence to support what you're saying, you can't come over here to come discuss nothing at all. Is it? So, to each his own. I'm not try to force nobody or convince anyone to agree with what I am saying. All I am doing is presenting the facts, presenting what you already have access to. So, if you choose to agree or to disagree, it is up to you, right? Secondly, I am not charging anyone any kind of monies for anything. So I don't have any interest in trying to convince you of anything because I don't have any stake in the game per se, right? So I don't have any agenda to say, well, if I convince you of this, maybe I gotta spend some money. If I tell you this and you believe it, then you will join a membership or you will do this. There is no form of money collecting over here, no form of exchange of nothing, right? So at the end of the day, if you learn something, good for you. But for some people, excuse me, for some people, if they are not paying for something or if they don't think it is something premium, them not jump on the bandwagon, them not see what it's about, them no want be a part of anything because you're not charge a fee. So if you're not charge a fee, that means to some people, maybe it's not valuable. Maybe you're just a push one little agenda for start a cult or something, right? And again, to each his own. You don't have to believe anything, but sometimes it is beneficial to at least look and see what is happening in a certain arena before you make a decision and say, no, this is enough for me, right? And again, with the scamming them and all them something they are going out there, I don't blame people, right? You have to be skeptical, question everything. Just like when the police stop you and you love question them, question everything else. But the difference is, if you get into a situation where you can learn, it is better for you to make an educated decision before you say, that's enough for me. And I might think that. King Kong, lawful, welcome. So, excuse me. A lot of things I want to explain and tell everyone, but the time isn't here yet. Call the road. Exactly. Right. Damien, lawful greetings. Welcome. You know, a lot of things that I want to discuss about the constitutional draft. As you know, the current draft, matter of fact, let me update it on the site now so that when we get into it, you will have the updated copy. Some new provisions were made. I am down to the last couple of suggestions that needs to be put together and straightened out. But when we are done with this and people start realizing what we're actually doing over here, as much as people might seem like they don't want to do certain things, they don't want to believe that this is going to make a difference, that's cool. That's quite alright. You don't need to believe right now. And nobody's asking you to believe. But just remember, you had a chance to be a part of history. The chance is still there, you know. But we are almost at the end of that period where we're going to finalize the draft. And for those who didn't find it beneficial to make suggestions or to join the lives, so you go. That's how you go. Now, people are still focused on this traffic stop business, right? Stops by the police and what do you do, what do you not do. No matter how I tell people, don't argue with the police. People are still feeling like they don't want to give up them rights and them no want, you know, police are treat them a certain way, etc., etc. Sobek, lawful, greetings and welcome. But I want to share something with you guys, right? And those who have come to class, you would have already known this. Number one, we always say this. We are not anti-police. Okay? Police is a function of society. Because we ourselves, when we go about our day-to-day duties, everybody know want if you look out to see if somebody a thief, somebody a rob, somebody a violator, somebody a this, somebody a that, right? So if something happens, we don't want to do that police work individually. This is why, you know, as a society, we have a specific set of people who do policing, right? Now, police has different branches. Police is not just police in today's society. Back then, when it was just instituted, it was for a specific purpose. Today, police have many different roles. And I hear people talking about just police all the time, like say, just one single unit of police where people not like or people disregard or people are try undermine and all that something. That is not how it works. You have administrative police, them sit down in an office and them do paperwork. You have police who go on special duties, mostly at night, sometimes in the day, right? You have traffic police, right? You have police who are patrolling for whatever reason, right? They're on minor operations. You have other ones that are out there looking for drugs and so you have all different layers of police. But the problem that many of us are facing, or many of us really talk about, is the police group that are doing traffic stops. Others are do things, you know. But the one them who do traffic stop, you know, violate your rights more than those who go on special operations and do other things, right? Now, I am not excusing none of them. But what I am saying is when people say, all right, you don't want the police because, you know, you disagree with everything what police do. It is so ignorant of a thought. It is so ignorant of something to say, oh, you don't want the police because everything police do, you complain. And that is so far from the truth. Because if somebody is complaining about a traffic stop, what does that have to do with special operations police? What does that have to do with police who are doing other duties? What about there again? It's just like when people say, most people don't do this and most people will do that. First of all, you don't even know 1,000 people in Jamaica. So you can't come get up and talk about most people will do this and most people. Like, people not get it. It's like so many opinions just jump out and just start talking about some things. Just because someone is complaining, it doesn't mean you can generalize and put everybody in a one bucket. It is foolish. It is absolutely foolish. So, for example, when we say, you know, the police have violated their rights to be randomly stopping the car. I have shown this many times. Many different court cases. I have also showed the law. The law does not give the police random police powers. Hemans versus Attorney General do not give the police any random powers. And the police themselves cannot cite a law that states that they can stop your car for any reason. Right? It has to be in relation to a crime. And like I said before, a crime is not something that someone just put on a piece of paper and say, oh, if you do this, it's a crime. No. A crime has to be damage to property. It is some kind of damage. If you go look at it, because ultimately, you know, it is what the courts decide. It is not what the police decide. what the police decide on the side of the road still has to go to some other higher authority. So the police don't have no independent power. They are basically following instruction. They're following direction. They don't act on their own. They can't act on their own. They have to be given instruction to go do something. Whereas the court can act on their own. Anything that comes before the court can make a decision. Now, when the police stop someone and they don't have a reason, they're talking about, we're making sure that your car is fit for the road. We're making sure your license is up to date. We're making sure. There's nothing in the law that says that they can do that. Right. Crime has different elements and meanings, but it all comes down to some damage. Some damage that was done. That is what the police has the mandate and the duty to act on. Secondly, over a year now I've been talking about this. Over a year and going on 6 months. I said to people before, a ticket is a civil instrument. And those couple of videos went viral. And people said all kind of things, right? And then when it comes down to it, right? And I said the ticket is a civil matter and it only becomes criminal when you get to court. Some people laugh, some people ridicule, some people say a foolishness may attack, some people say I am misleading the public. You can go back and see if you, well, there's a lot of videos on my page, but if you scroll down to last year, you will see the comments. And then when the Chief Justice came out, because some of them did say, well, the ticket is a civil matter. And I am saying that it is not true. When the police stop you, anytime the police is involved in anything, it is always in relation to a crime. Criminal jurisdiction. You cannot have the police doing any civil duties, right? The point of the police power in the first place is for identifying criminal elements. That's it. That is literally all the police is mandated to police. So, when the police stop you randomly, and them say, we're just checking your license, we're making sure the car is roadworthy, we're making sure this. None of that is lawful. And then when I say that now, you're going to hear people come under the comment section and I say, you don't know the law, you don't know this, you don't know that. When literally, I point to the Supreme Court rulings and they are still arguing. It's like opinions can't stop from running through people's head. If the Supreme Court makes a decision, right? Did you know that you can take a copy of that decision? Mr. Difficult, lawful, wagwan. Exactly, it's all about you. When the Supreme Court makes a decision, did you know you can print out that decision and bring to your court case? Whenever you have court, you can bring it to court. And you can use it in that lower court. Just that is actually a piece of evidence. A court case that was deliberated on before and a ruling was made or an order was given, you can bring that court case into your current case and you can make it or you can demand it to be judicially noticed, right? You can use it as your evidence. Options, lawful evening, greetings. Stare decisis, not necessarily can, I'm talking about using it as evidence, right? So, at the end of the day, sometimes we have evidence and we have other, as you can say, we have other resources at hand that we typically ignore because we don't know they are there. Drew, lawful evening. So, when we have things like Supreme Court cases that we can use, right? That is why they always get abused by law, because they don't want to learn. Right. Right. There are so many people who they just want a quick fix. And as I say on the lives before, do not message me asking me how to beat your ticket. I can't help you. I don't provide consultation, so you can't message me and ask me how you have to do this and how you have to do that. What I am talking about here is like I'm talking to myself. If you learn something, then good for you, but I am not here to advise anyone. Right, it is precedence, special precedence, right? A court ruling, a higher court ruling is a special precedence. So when you have your regular case and you go into court, then you can bring in what's called authority, right? So a higher court ruling is a lower court's authority. Even the current court, if you have a Supreme Court ruling, you can also use another Supreme Court ruling to support your case. That is what is called your authority. What are you using as your authority to bring your matter forward? And remember, if you have a ticket, if you have a ticket, you are not the one on trial. Let me say that again. If you have a ticket and you end up in court, you who are holding the ticket, you are not the one on trial. So you don't need to answer any questions. Someone asked me the other day, how do you enforce your presumption of innocence? I see. Here we go. Let me say this again. Get on a pen and a pencil, because we're going to drop some gems. See? Matter of fact, we're going to pull up the statute so that we can talk from a lawful basis, right? So we're going to bring up the Constitution, Order in Council 1962. So and we're going to well, I am sure the agents are here, but apparently they are more scared of the draft than anything else. So I guess they're not ready yet to start report the live. Or maybe they're taking notes. I don't know. So I think this is 16.5, right? So let us take a look at section 16.5 of the Jamaica Constitution, Order in Council 1962. So here we have the document. Let me bring this over here so that we can zoom it up. Right? Section 16.5. It states, every person charged with a criminal offense shall be presumed innocent until, okay? So when you have a business about the until, you walk into court, what is supposed to happen? You should be, it says shall. This is not conditional. Excuse me. This is not discretionary. This is not something that can be argued. The judge can argue with you about this. But they do. They do, right? So, the question now is this. How do we enforce such a provision of law? Because the Constitution is considered the highest law of the land. Right? So how do we enforce the presumption of innocence and not argue back and forth with the judge? Well, we have all the lives posted on YouTube. So if anyone wants to claim some of these things to say it is theirs and whatever, I mean, personally, well, see, the agents them just come out. Gifts are suspended. Okay, we're not business about gifts. No business about gifts. So them start report the live. Gem time. Alright? So how do we enforce the presumption of innocence? Right? They ask you what you're going to plead before you go to court. This is what we do. Number one, you have to learn court procedure. I'm going to tell you now, but you need to comprehend certain things first. You need to learn court procedure. It is valuable. I'm going to give you an example. You see, a whole heap of people, them just stroll in a court and just walk in. Then wait till them date come on the ticket and them gone in a court. Them expect say the judge are gonna say, well, do you have any evidence or what, you know, how this go and where? That is not what happens, right? There is no instruction manual. There is no step-by-step process. Nothing. All they have are rules. Just rules. You can do this, you can't do this. You can do this, you can't do this. If this happens, then that. There are no step-by-step procedures. So you can go there and go find to see what happens from the start all the way up to what should happen at the end. Right? So this is why I said you need to learn court procedure. So what actually happens at the start of a traffic matter, which is a criminal matter, right? You get the ticket, or more accurately, you get the charging instrument, which is the information sheet, which is what you call a citation or a ticket. Whole heap of name feet. You get the ticket, it has an expiration date. This is what is called a transformative document, right? So you get a ticket, and when the ticket expires, it turns into a summons. It is not supposed to exist, but that is how they create it and that is how they enforce it. So the date comes when the ticket expires, and upon expiration, you are required to go to court. We're not going to talk about the name, we're not going to talk about the legal fiction and all of that. We just have to go through what people typically do, right? So you get the ticket, you decide you go to court on the date that is specified. When you reach a court, them ask you, guilty or not guilty? You say not guilty. Then we say, okay, we're going to set a date so you can come back and we can have a trial. And the judge and the clerk of court, not clerk, the judge and the clerk of court decide on a date that you will return, which is typically 2 to 3 months up the road. So the first date you go to court, you're going to waste your time. Because all I'm going to ask you is guilty or not guilty. I'm not going to tell you what just happened, you know. I'm just going to tell you what happened. Okay? When you come back the second time, 60 to 80% of the time, the police not going to show up. So now, you waste your time 2 times I go to court. The third time, the police might not show up either. So now you waste 3 days going to court. So when you hear people say, I can't bother with court, I'm not going to waste my time, I'm not going to this is what they're talking about. So the third time, no police shows up, right? At this point, the judge might say, okay, we're going to dismiss the case for want of prosecution. And this means the case cannot proceed unless there is a witness. So if the witness is not there, the prosecution cannot proceed because you have to verify who made the statements, who made the charge, and what were the circumstances for the ticket being issued. If that is not proven, the judge will sometimes dismiss the case. Sometimes you have to come back 5 to 7 times before that happens. Now, this is why I say you need to learn court procedure. You see, the first time you have what's called a mention date, which is the date where the court said the officer is supposed to come and testify as a witness to what he saw and what he wrote on the ticket. Right there and then you can motion the court to dismiss the case. Here is why. The very first time you show up to court, the judge, a matter of fact, the court, I'm not going to say that, but the judge and the court is considered one and the same. The judge is just acting as a part of the court. The court sends out a subpoena. A subpoena is a requirement by the court that you come to court on a specific date. Now, you don't know that. Sometimes the judge says it, but you don't know that typically. So now you come back to court, you don't know what that means. So if you don't instruct the judge to do something, you don't give the court a direction to move in. No, the court is going to do what them feel is, I guess, best to them. Right? So now, if you don't tell the court, Your Honor, there is no prosecution here. A subpoena was supposed to have been sent out to the constable. The constable did not show up. So now there is no witness. Therefore, there is no proper case before the court. Motion to dismiss for want of prosecution. Motion to dismiss for, as you can say, whatever you want to come up with. Your Honor, there is no witness. I would like the case dismissed. The witness was given notice and the witness did not show up. Motion to dismiss. Your Honor, can you please dismiss this case given that the witness failed to show? Simple as that. You don't need to come back 4, 5, 6, 7 times. So if you know this kind of procedure, there is no reason for you to waste your time, waste your money. Right? On the third trial date, if the police don't show, case is to be dismissed. It should be dismissed. But there are reports of people who show up even 7 times and the court is still granting leniency to the constable to show up. Alright? Which again is not due process. But anyways, now let's say the constable show up the first time. Right? The first date you should get to court, which is on the ticket. You go there and the judge is asking you, guilty or not guilty. Let us take a look again. Right? When you look at section 16.5 of the Constitution, Order and Council 1962, there is nothing here that says not guilty. It says every person charged with a criminal offense shall, meaning they must, be presumed innocent until he is proved guilty. So that means that after the trial, right, where he is proven guilty, or if he has pled guilty. So unless you say, Your Honor, I am guilty. Unless you say that, the court is supposed to presume. They're supposed to take it as default that you are innocent. That is the presumption of innocence. It's just like somebody walking around. We deem those people to be upstanding members of society. We don't look at everybody and say, you don't say him look like a criminal. You don't say that one look like a criminal. Like, that is not how anything in society works. But the courts will readily force you to say guilty or not guilty. So now, what you can do, and I'm talking to myself, I'm not giving you any advice for anybody who is watching. You can print out that page, section 16.5 of the Constitution. And when you are asked, guilty or not guilty, you can say, Your Honor, under the Constitution, I am claiming my presumption of innocence. So, Your Honor, you want a copy? Clerk, you want a copy? And you know them are going to hug you down. Them are going to say, sir, this is the process of the court. You have to answer guilty or not guilty. We are not here to have a trial today. This and that and ray. Here's another way to do this. You can create a notice. A notice of claim of presumption of innocence. Notice of claim of presumption of innocence. And you attach a copy of 16.5 to it. You JP sign it. And you courier it to the court. You send it to the court and have somebody have to sign for. Then can't say they don't get it. Then can't say they don't know what you're talking about. I mean, they can, you know. They can. It went 6 times before the case was dismissed. Can there be a claim made in the Supreme Court for these waste of time and for a violation of due process? Absolutely. Absolutely. So, this is how you can enforce your presumption of innocence. And agents, me know when I take notes, you know. I tell everybody if you take notes. Right? You can enforce your presumption of innocence. Okay? Now, a lot of times, I hear people saying, how do we stop them from doing this? How do we stop them from doing that? How do we stop this? How do we prevent this? How do we stop this from happening? You see, when you ask those questions, it is clear you don't understand how the law works. The law works when there is a violation of some right or privilege. Let me say that again. The law works by violation or damage of some right or privilege. That's it. So if you don't allow the damage to happen, then you can't go to court. If you don't allow the damage to happen, you can't make a claim in court. You can't go there and say, you know, so somebody nearly licked me with one stone. Nearly is not a claim. Unless someone was threatening your life, you almost died with a weapon. Right? Unless you have attempted unaliving. Other than that, you can't say somebody try to do this and somebody try to do that. You need evidence. Criminal law works by evidence. Civil law works by evidence. Everything works by evidence. So if you don't allow the violation to happen, if you keep on interrupting the process of allowing some damage to happen, you don't have a claim. You don't have no claim in court. So, in my view, I don't try to stop nothing. I let everybody do what they feel like they do. If you feel like it's your job, go ahead. It's just like you go fishing, right? Are you going to fling some stone into the water? Or are you just going to throw your hook and line into the water with the bait? It makes sense? That's why they stop me. I say, congratulations, see you in court. Yeah, you just take your ticket and you keep it moving. Take your ticket, keep it moving. Because when you learn, for the people who don't want to go to court, what happens when you have to go? Is that the time you are going to try to learn? Or you just have the money and you just have to pay the lie them every time a court situation come up? Now look at it. Let's say you're in the wrong place at the wrong time. Right? And you are charged with some minor thing, but you can go to jail. Right? Are you willing to risk your life savings paying an attorney Or would you rather to learn how to fish from early? Which one makes sense to you? Because some people are of the mindset that you can't walk in a court and win. You can't walk in a court and the court respect you. You can't walk in a court and anything good come out of it. People, if that was the case, we would not have any winning cases. We would not have any winning cases by anyone. Learning now too bored. I don't lie. Learning is not typically fun, you know. Unless it is something really active or something where you're really curious. If you're really, really curious, trust me, it is a lot of fun. You see, like the law now, if you learn what is happening, if you really know what's happening, law is fun. How many attorneys do you see arguing with police? The attorneys, them already know what going on. Them no need to argue. Right? If you hear about an attorney getting into a situation, most likely it is something out of their realm of, you know, control. But attorneys have some of the best self-control when it comes to legal matters, right? If they are involved in a legal matter, they are not going to represent themselves in many cases. They are going to get an attorney, right? I almost pay millions because I was told I could not go without a lawyer. And it depends on who tell you that too. Because, and I showed this several lives ago, right? Where the law itself states that you can just sign a contract for someone to represent you in court. As long as they are not getting paid, you can assign someone to present themselves in court for you. It doesn't have to be an attorney. I think it's the Parish Court Act. It does not have to be an attorney. Let me pull it up. So you can see for yourself. The Parish Court Act of 2021. Right? I think it was... court administration, clerks, bailiffs. Them extend out them something are so long. Judge. Let's see. Let's see if I can find the section real quick and show you. They had. Okay, here we go. Section 188 of the Parish Court Act. Right, let me show you now. Tell them to forget on a pen and paper, you know. We're going to go through it real quick. So, Section 188 of the Parish Court Act of 2021. It states, it shall not be lawful for any person except the party to a suit or other proceeding, or a member of his family, or his clerk, or servant, or his master, or any officer or clerk of a company or a corporation duly authorized under seal of such company, blah, 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 blah. Right? Or barrister or advocate retained by or on behalf of such party, to appear and act for such party in such suit or proceeding, but an appearance by any such person shall be deemed to be an appearance of the party for whom he acts, provided always that any suit or proceeding in a court or in any court of petty session to which the Crown, the Governor General, Attorney General, Commissioner, defined in blah blah blah, is a party, the government officer may appear and act for the Crown, the Governor General, the Attorney General, or a Commissioner as defined in Section 2 of the Revenue Administration Act, as the case may be, and in any suit or proceeding to which the Chief Technical Director shall be a party, any officer of his department may appear and act for him in like manner. So what all of this is saying is that you can appoint anyone to act in your stead in court. You don't need an attorney. Nothing here says that only attorneys can represent people in court. Okay? And see over here, so what it say? In a caption for that section, who may appear and act for a party in to any proceeding, criminal or civil, doesn't have to be an attorney. Okay? So again, you can simply print out that section and bring it with you. So if challenged, if you are told, sir, this is a serious matter, you need to get an attorney, you need to do this, you need to do that, respectfully, Your Honor, Section 188 of the Parish Court Act states that I can appoint anyone to represent me in court, and thereby, unless there is a superseding law that states that I must get an attorney, I would submit that you are presenting false information to me unless I am not understanding what this law says. Right? And another thing, the judge cannot practice from the bench. The judge cannot direct you and tell you things that are not in law. Court procedure is not law. I'll say that again. Court procedure is not law. So, even though the court would prefer that you get an attorney, it is not law. You can appoint anyone. You can appoint your granny. You can appoint your neighbor. Just give them one of the specified names that are in Section 188 of the Parish Court Act. So again, if you don't have a violation, the agents them out. More violations coming in. What may I violate, say? I not charge nobody. I not tell nobody if you do nothing. I am simply talking about what is already in the public. Everybody can go search and find the Parish Court Act. But anyways, let us proceed. So, you can enforce your presumption of innocence. And someone else can walk into court for you. Not me. Don't message me and ask me if I can go in and represent your case. I am not going to do it. Okay? I don't have the time. I don't have the patience. I don't have, right now, I am stretched thin. And even if I could, I wouldn't. Because I tell you if you come to class so you can learn better and do better. But when you sit down and watch TikTok and be entertained. So, amazing that agents actively support people remaining ignorant. Well, I guess that is how they make them bread and butter. Some of them maybe. I don't know. So, at the end of the day, we have a lot of these laws out there that are to our benefit. But, you see, because it's mostly the attorneys that are reading, they are the only ones who see the remedy. And in some cases, they will not use some of the remedy that's available. That's how the system works on the ignorance of the people. Absolutely. Because even though the law is there, even though the law and the court says what you can and cannot do, nobody in the business, the public servants and the public officials, them still go about and do whatever them please, right? Because what? They know that most people don't know the law and most people are not going to pursue what they might consider a small matter, right? Some people might say, well, you know, just do what I do, man, and we take care of that. It is only because we are not going to court. We are not filing claims. We are not making criminal referrals. We are not submitting criminal complaints. We are not creating records. Here's another thing that I forgot to mention last time. You see, those of you with dash cams, those of you who record interactions, as soon as you get a chance, learn to use YouTube. YouTube is free. You don't have to be saving everything on a flash drive. You don't have to be saving everything on this and that and I try upload all of your videos them to YouTube. If you have a Google account, you already have a YouTube account. When you go to YouTube, there's a plus sign, or if you're on the computer, on the top right, there's a create button, or also a plus sign. You can upload your videos to YouTube. When you are uploading, it will give you the option of making it public or keeping it what's called private or unlisted. Right? So you have three options. The public option, obviously everybody can see it. The private option is where you would be the only one that can basically see the videos. And then the third option, which is the one in the middle, is unlisted. So you can share that link with someone or share that link with a group and they can see it, but nobody else on YouTube can search and find it. Right? So you have the options there. Don't keep the videos on flash drive and memory cards and these kind of things because they can fail. People can take them out and mash them up and dash them away and all kind of something. Start using YouTube. It is free. It is unlimited. YouTube is unlimited. You can upload as many videos and as many content as you want. And again, you don't have to make it public. It's been there for a long time. And it is very easy to use. Download it on your phone. Use it on the computer. Stop thinking that you need to keep buying memory cards and these kind of things. Yeah. I guess me and mash somebody can. Them still a report the live. Whatever. Use up YouTube. It is a free tool. It is very, very good. Because one of the good things about YouTube is it timestamps your videos. Right? So even though your video might have a timestamp on it, when you upload it, it will show when that video was added to YouTube. So if you ever need your unedited video, if you ever need to use it in court or you ever need to use certain things in certain places, you have an unedited copy. You know, you can put in your disclaimer in the description to say, you know, this is an unedited copy of the original, etc., etc., etc. I mean, you can still keep your storage, you know, but at least on YouTube, you will have a full copy of what it is that you have that's important. So start using that. I would urge you, right? Also, sometimes we have to realize that there are some battles that we don't have to fight. We don't have to fight every battle. However, if you don't practice, you're not going to learn. As much as I teach on here, if you just keep on listen to me, and you never use any of it, you don't really know how it works, or you don't really know what works. You don't really know how effective it is. Now, for those who have taken action, I mean, no, say want to send me the message, them and thing. Big up on yourself. For those who have used, you know, some of the strategies that I talk about, for those who have learned from what I was teaching, for those of you who have utilized the knowledge, big up on yourself. Lawful, always. From day one, I've been telling you, take notes. Learn one thing a day, little by little. If you are learning, or if you were reading 1 page a day for the past year, you would have read 365 pages at this point. Just 1 page a day. So it is not what you can do in bulk right now. It is the culmination. It is the process of going through some of these things so that you can gain the experience. If you don't gain the experience, then what is the point? The things we have in our head, you see, when time we start do it, it is a different story. Almost nothing that we imagine, nothing we have in our head, play out 100% how we thought it was when it was in our head. Every time we put something in motion, we have to adjust. We have to adjust to make sure I say, okay, yes, we are going down this path. Yes, we know what we are doing, but now we have to shift. We have to wait a little bit. We have to move fast a little bit. You see it? So it is not something where you learn all of this and all of a sudden you're a genius. No. Eagle King, lawful, welcome. You have to practice. You have to go out there and get some experience. A bird doesn't learn how to fly by just jumping out of the nest. They have not only DNA memory, but they also have instructions. And at some point, they have to get out of the nest. So they wait until they're old enough in many cases and just jump out. And they start using their wing in mid-air. They are using their wing. The same thing with any other species. If they have to run, if they have to do this, they have to do that. It is practice, practice, practice. So, that being said, don't be a hoarder of information. Stop hoarding all this information and you're not doing nothing with it. It is not going to be beneficial if you don't find an outlet to express those ideas and those theories you have in your head. And I say theories because even though you might know say this or that law and that or that law, it is always best to make sure that what you have in your head is what is actually going on in society. All right? So, any questions? You can drop your questions in the comments. I've been, how long on the live now? 1 hour under that. 1 hour under that. Now I have no questions. So I'm going to move forward and we'll get to our constitutional drafting. So, alright, so no questions. Alright, so for those who are new to constitutional drafting, this is how we get there. Alright. Gotcha. I'll go on with my camera. Alright. So, here we are on voiceofjamaica.com. Alright. If you see this background, you're in the right place. You scroll down, and the first post should say New Constitution. You click on that. Scroll down, and here we have our constitutional draft. We have the Word version and we have the PDF version, right? So let's take a look at our PDF version. And this is our current draft. We are now at 347 pages. Right? And as you know from last time, the first section is the Declaration of Independence, right? And then we have our table of contents for the actual Constitution, right? So, we have recently added 2 new sections, which I'm going to go over. Which one was this? Transparency in finance. Oh, last time we went over religious organizations, freedom of belief, and spiritual accountability, right? So we talk about why the churches and other religious organizations are going to be regulated under the new constitution, which they currently are not. Section 53 talks about animal welfare, pet ownership, and wildlife protection. Exactly, Kim, our story in the making. So this was another suggestion that was made on the live to talk about how we're going to actually protect some of the rights and the interests regarding animal welfare, pet ownership, and so forth. All right. So this article exists to protect animals from cruelty and unnecessary suffering, regulate pet ownership, preserve wildlife populations, and ensure humane treatment of all animals. See if we can zoom it in a little bit more for now. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Animal cruelty. Animal cruelty is a crime. Animal cruelty includes torture, abandonment, starvation, intentional injury, neglect causing suffering, organized animal fighting, unnecessary unaliving. Right? Conviction shall result in criminal penalties and prohibition from future ownership where appropriate. So, this is a very basic animal protection law. Right? In almost every country, you have something like this, where you have protection for animals that are tamed. So if you get an animal that is already tamed, they don't have any wildlife experience, then these protections are there to ensure that you don't just have the animal in a cruel situation, right? Protection from suffering. No person shall intentionally cause prolonged suffering to an animal. Animals requiring humane euthanasia due to injury or illness shall be treated in a humane manner. Deliberate infliction of suffering constitutes a crime. So again, if you don't want the pet, bring it somewhere or give it to someone. Don't have the pet there suffering, because if someone reports you and it is investigated, then that is a crime. Pets. A pet is any animal purchased, adopted, rescued, or voluntarily kept as a companion. Pets shall be protected from abuse and neglect. Pet registration. All pets shall be registered in the National Animal Registry. Registration shall identify the owner, the species, age where known, and location. Registration records shall be maintained accurately. Now, why would we even want a registry if someone just want to have a pet? Right? You catch one bird in a bush, you just want to have it, as a companion or just something to have around you, right? Why would you need to register it? Why you need to go through, this process? Because, again, once you take something from the wild and you start taming it, you're actually making it vulnerable, so that if you are to even release it later on, it can cause a problem for that animal to be reintegrated into natural, ecology. And also, what if someone steals it, right? And it can be identified. It is easier to return it to you. So the registration is just simply a registry, a documented record of the animal, right? It is nothing else. Transfer and death of pets. Upon transfer of ownership, the registry shall be updated, right? So if you sell the animal or if you transfer it to someone else, it is required that the record be updated to show the new owner, right? Upon death, the death shall be reported, right? So you simply report that the animal is dead, and that's it. Failure to update records constitutes a violation. So if you have an animal and it's just like any other property, right? If it is not in the registry and you are caught with it, or the record is inconsistent, right? Again, depends on the scenario. There might be leniency, but the registry needs to be updated as far as animals are concerned, right? So that way, any protections are maintained. Many different scenarios where you might have a pet and something happened to it, or you need to get it back, or whatever. Someone come in and damage a pet. You should have some recourse, but a record must be there, right? No, you have to prove that the pet died. It can't just be word of mouth. Right. So, in the registries, it's going to ask you questions, and it's going to ask you for, a picture or something like that. It can't just be someone say, oh, the pet dead. Absolutely. Right? And that's why we have the registry. It's going to have specific information that is required to complete that record. Protection of pets. Pets shall not be slaughtered for food, sold for consumption, or intentionally unalived except for humane necessity. Alright? Violation constitutes a criminal offense. Again, if an animal is registered as a pet, it cannot be used for food. I mean, that should be self-explanatory, but of course we can think of situations where that is not the case. Repairing, me soon bring you up. I see you tapped on the box. Protected species. The following animals shall not be unalived, sold for food, possessed for consumption, or consumed. Should be processed. I'm going to update that. So these animals shall not be used for food. Dogs, cats, vultures, hawks, eagles, crows, and mongoose. Additional protection. Additional protected species may be established by law. What's this? Can I ask if there can be a provision to stop the chaining of animals on a 6-foot chain permanently? I don't know about that. You mean like chaining a dog to a permanent location? Elaborate on that one there. So, we have to have limits to consumption of what we consider to be food, right? Culturally speaking, we have never eaten these animals, right? These animals are typically outside of our food pyramid, and they serve their specific purposes, right? We need the vultures them to clean up the dead animals them in the wild, and sometimes roadkill and them something there. The hawks are there for a reason, etc., etc. Remote tours, lawful, welcome. Wildlife protection. Wildlife shall not be hunted except where expressly permitted. Hunting causing unnecessary suffering is prohibited. Wildlife populations shall be monitored and protected. I mean, that already happens now, so this is nothing new, right? You can't just go out there and just hunt animals that are not either predatory or, imbalancing the ecological system. Land crabs, crab lovers. Wild land crabs may be harvested only during the months of May and June. Harvest outside this period is prohibited. Farm-raised land crabs may be harvested, bought, sold throughout the year. Any sale outside of May and June shall require proof of farm origin. And again, there is a reason for this. There are people out there now who say, people can catch crab anytime. People not supposed to worry about when to catch crab and all of that. People, it's just like in our regular society. When a woman is pregnant, right, she cannot get pregnant anymore, right? When the animals are breeding up, or they are going through their cycles of their whatever it is that they have to go through, right? We can't interrupt the animal cycle. Even if it is in the wild, we know that during May and June is when they are mature, they have gone through the full season, and full circle come back where we can raise them. We have a full 2 months where we can actually hunt the animals safely and not mess with their development period, right? So this is not something new. We all know that May and June is crab season. So this is just putting it in writing, pretty much. Right? However, like we say, if you have a bunch of crab in your farm, in your yard, or in one pen somewhere, that is different. They are not a part of the whole, wildlife cycle. Those can be bought and sold, but you need to have a receipt. All right? Proof of farm origin. A seller of land crabs outside the permitted harvest season shall provide a receipt, farm identification, and harvest record. All right? Failure to provide proof creates a presumption of unlawful harvest. So just like anything else, you buy something, you get a receipt. Simple. Animal breeding and sale. Commercial breeding shall maintain humane standards, provide proper care, and avoid overcrowding. Inhumane breeding operations are prohibited. Animal rescue and rehabilitation. Rescue organizations may recover abandoned animals, provide rehabilitation, and facilitate adoption. Rescue operations shall be registered and subject to welfare standards. Right? So, this is not a big thing in Jamaica. So, there might be, 2 to 3 rehabilitation centers on the island because it is not something of a major problem. Alison, lawful, welcome. Enforcement. Reports of animal cruelty shall be investigated. Evidence of criminal conduct shall be referred to the Office of Public Prosecution. Seized animals shall receive humane care pending disposition. Penalties. Violations of this article may result in fines, restitution, prohibition from ownership, or criminal prosecution. Severe cruelty resulting in unaliving or prolonged suffering constitutes a serious offense. Right? So if you are, being cruel to the animal over a long period of time and it can be proven, or if you're just there unaliving animals for fun, then, this is going to constitute a more serious crime. Principle. Animal welfare in Jamaica shall ensure humane treatment, responsible ownership, protection of wildlife, prevention of cruelty, and preservation of ecological balance. Legal game hunting. Legal game hunting shall be permitted only during designated hunting seasons within approved hunting zones in accordance with wildlife conservation requirements. Hunting shall serve population management, food harvesting, environmental balance, and protection of agriculture and property. Right? Because we know there's always a species out there of birds or some other thing that is considered a pest to society. Right? It is just overdoing whatever it is, or sometimes it is not even meant to be in our location. So, you have those species that can be hunted. Hunting for cruelty, waste, or unnecessary suffering is prohibited. Game birds. A designated bird hunting season shall be established annually. Legal game bird species include white-crowned pigeon, Zenada dove, white-winged dove, and mourning dove. Protected species shall not be hunted. The ring-tailed pigeon and other designated native species shall remain protected at all times. Hunting protected species constitutes a wildlife crime. Wild hogs. Wild hogs may be hunted throughout designated regions where populations threaten agriculture, damage property, and create ecological imbalance. Traditional hunting practices of recognized communities may continue where consistent with this constitution. Unnecessary suffering during hunting is prohibited. Again, it doesn't make sense to torture animals. No sense at all. So you can't make the animals sit down there suffer. White-tailed deer. White-tailed deer are recognized as a non-native species. Hunting shall be permitted within designated management zones where population threaten agriculture, damage crops, create environmental imbalance. Population control programs may be established where necessary. Again, this is a gray area because some people are saying left the deer them alone, but people don't realize how destructive deers are. Deers are not native to Jamaica. So, while people think they are cute and they are fun to look at, they damage a lot of crops. Licensing and registration. Any person participating in legal hunting shall complete wildlife safety training, obtain a hunting permit, and comply with seasonal regulations. Hunting permits shall identify the species authorized, hunting area, and season of validity. Hunting without authorization constitutes a violation. Humane harvesting. Hunters may make reasonable efforts to ensure quick and humane unalive. Recover wounded animals and avoid unnecessary suffering. Deliberate cruelty during hunting constitutes animal cruelty. Waste prohibition. No person shall unalive legal game and abandon it without reasonable cause. Harvested animals shall be consumed, utilized, donated, or otherwise lawfully processed. So that means that you can't just go out there and just pew, 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 pew. Right? It has to be for a reason. You have to utilize it in some way. It is not just go out there and just get rid of them. You have to find some way to dispose of them or give them away, donate them or something. Wasteful unaliving constitutes wildlife offense. Wildlife Management Authority. A wildlife management authority shall monitor wildlife populations, establish hunting seasons, publish annual wildlife reports, recommend conservation measures. All wildlife data shall be publicly available. Wildlife management in Jamaica shall ensure conservation of native species, humane harvesting, ecological balance, agricultural protection, responsible hunting practices, and preservation of wildlife for future generations. Our question is, how about grazing animals roaming in the housing scheme? Can there be a way to stop that? Yes, that is already described in the property law section. So, I mean, there are provisions already there for that. So if someone left the animal a roam and it comes onto your property, you have the authority to capture it and demand restitution for any damages that it causes, right? Especially if your place is fenced or gated in. Article 54, intellectual property, creative works and inventions. Again, this is another suggestion that was made. So we have expanded an article to support protection of intellectual property and creations. This article protects original written works, artistic works, inventions, discoveries reduced to practical use, industrial designs, technological innovations. The purpose of protection is to encourage creativity, encourage invention, preserve family inheritance rights, and promote public advancement through lawful use. Creative works. Protected works includes books, manuscripts, poems, articles, music, recordings, visual art, educational materials, software, other original creative works. Ownership. Yeah, man, you're welcome. Ownership. Ownership belongs exclusively to the creator, lawful heirs, lawful assignees by written agreement. Ownership shall not arise by government action. Tia, lawful, greetings. Exclusive rights. The owner possesses exclusive authority to reproduce, publish, distribute, license, modify, or sell. No third party may use a protected work without written authorization or lawful public domain status. Inventions. Protected inventions include machines, manufacturing processes, industrial systems, technological improvements, practical innovations, scientific applications reduced to practice. Rights of inventors. Inventors and or creators possess exclusive authority to manufacture, license, sell, authorize production, authorize commercial use. No person shall manufacture or commercially exploit an invention without authorization. Any works invented or created within educational or other institutions must be attributed to the respective inventors or original creators, except attributed to work as an employee or part of a contract work product. So basically, if you are paid to do something, you cannot claim any kind of rights to that item or that product, right? You can only claim a right to an invention or a product or a creation if you came up with the idea and you were not hired, right? It is of your own free will. But if you are in a work environment, you cannot claim any kind of, originality from that, because typically you're not working by yourself. Unauthorized commercial use shall subject the violator to full restitution of all sales, contractual sums, and profits gained as a result of such breach of property rights. Registration. A national intellectual property registry shall be established. Registration shall include the creator or inventor identity, date of registration, description of the work or invention, and ownership information. Registry records shall be publicly reviewable. Again, just with anything else, we should not be asking anyone for records. This idea of you have to go to this agency and submit a request and all, this is such foolishness. Such foolishness. We need to have an open public record system that can be accessed without having to ask. Why are we asking to review public information? It is ludicrous. So all of these registries, these public record systems will not require permission to ask for information. It will be publicly available for everyone. All right? Renewal. My words might change up. Registered rights shall require periodic renewal as prescribed by law. Renewal notices shall be publicly recorded. Inheritance and succession. Transfer to heirs. Upon death, rights shall transfer to lawful heirs. Heirs shall possess the same rights as the original creator or inventor. Failure to claim, where no heirs appear and no lawful claim is made within 15 years following the final renewal deadline, the work or invention shall enter public supervisory trust status. I'm going to talk about that shortly. Public supervisory trust status, or public supervisory trust. A public supervisory trust is established. The trust shall public domain status. Works or inventions placed into the trust shall become public domain property. Such works may be used by any person, used for education, research, public benefit, charitable activity, shall be free of charge. Commercial use. Commercial users may be required to pay a licensing fee administered by the trust. Any revenue generated shall first benefit verified descendants where identified. Thereafter, benefit the public through the consolidated fund. So, if we have an invention or a protected work that no one re-registers or claims over a period of 15 years, let's go back up here, sir. 15 years, you have to go and look and see if you are entitled to the work or the work product or the invention or the creation. If no one shows up, then it is placed under a public supervisory trust. Right? So this way, the work can continue to be protected. So, if it has commercial viability, then that commercial viability is going to be protected as an island commodity, and it will still benefit any identified descendants or heirs, even if they don't come forward. If they can be located, if they can be identified, then they will directly benefit from the invention into the foreseeable future. All right? And thereafter, right, being that the government or the governmental body is going to be administering that trust, it will be a split benefit. The descendants would get partial benefit, and the consolidated fund would also get partial benefit for, obviously for public society. Limitations on government. Government ownership is prohibited. Government shall not own creative works, inventions, patents, copyrights, industrial designs, intellectual property rights. Government may only register works, maintain records, administer trusts, and collect lawful fees and taxes. So literally, the government is simply a trustee in this situation. Revenue. Registration fees, renewal fees, licensing fees, and taxes collected under this article shall be deposited into the public consolidated fund. Such funds shall not become property of any public official nor institution. Infringement. Violations. Violations include unauthorized reproduction, unauthorized manufacture, unauthorized licensing, false ownership claims, registry fraud. Violations shall result in restitution, compensation, penalties, criminal liability where intentional fraud is proven. The principle is intellectual property protection in Jamaica shall ensure protection of creators and inventors, preservation of inheritance rights, public access to abandoned works, encouragement of innovation, prohibition of government ownership, and benefit to present and future generations. Right? So this is a part of the economical viability and protection of our economy. Right? If we have works that are created in Jamaica, it shall stay in Jamaica. It should not be transferred anywhere outside of Jamaica, right? Unless the creator transfers or registers and protects that ownership elsewhere, right? But whatever is created in Jamaica would be something that stays in Jamaica as a lifelong product of the economy, right? And those who are responsible for such creations, they should always be compensated. Their families should always benefit for coming up with those ideas and those inventions. Right? So, also, when we're talking about the animals, you know, wild hogs, just like the deers, are an invasive species. You know, they cause a lot of damage for those who are in farming. Those who are in farming or agriculture, right? And you come in contact with wild hogs. In any part of the world where you have wild hogs, they are all hostile. Always. They are one of the, as you can say, the most wild creatures around agriculture. And not only that, when they decide to destroy crops, they will eat everything. Everything. They are not leaving nothing. So if you don't have traps, if you don't have some kind of deterrent, you have a large problem. Imagine you plant some corn, or you have a cornfield, or you have a cabbage field, and in the space of one night you come back and half of the field is gone. You know, that is a horrible thing to wake up to. You know, so this is why, you know, some of these animals like the deer and the wild hogs and so forth are permitted to be hunted, because, you know, especially where you have food products and agriculture being, you know, grown, you don't want to have to deal with, you know, this kind of situation with these destructive animals. And they breed very fast, by the way. You know, one hog, just like a regular hog, will, well, a regular pig, because a pig is a domesticated version. That pig can have up to what, 12 or 13 little piglets. The wild hog is the same. 10 to 15 of them at a time. And they grow very fast. They grow fast, and they also have a long lifespan. So, you know, it is a nuisance whenever they start multiplying. Right? So other than that, you know, there are many changes throughout the document. I cannot go through all of them. You know, it is becoming, you know, a full comprehensive document now. We're almost done. Again, like I said, we only have just a few more changes and touch-ups to make, and then this will be the final draft. I think by the end of this week, we should have the final version of this document. So if you have any last minute suggestions, I would urge you to head over to voiceofjamaica.com. Let's go back over there. I would urge you to go to voiceofjamaica.com. You click on the first post that says New Constitution, and you can make your suggestions here, right? And we will review the suggestions, and if they are neutral, then those suggestions will be incorporated in the draft if it is not already there. Okay? So again, there have been so many changes and so many updates to the draft that, we cannot get through it in one session. We have to basically do bite-sized chunks. But the table of contents, let us go back to the table of contents. Table of contents is still not updated just yet. There are several sections to add, I think 4 more titles. But if you are interested in a specific section, you can simply navigate to that section from the table of contents, and then you can make a suggestion from what you think isn't there yet or what you'd like to suggest changes on, right? So we're getting there. We're almost there. And hopefully by the end of this week, we can start focusing on stage 2, which would push us forward. Stage 2 would push us forward to the next stage, the next steps on what we're going to be pursuing, how we're pursuing it, and why. And the effect. I can't really talk about effects just yet, but once we move on to stage 2, more things will become apparent on why we did the draft, why we included everything in a single document, what we are going to be pushing to accomplish, and how it will help our people going forward. Because at the end of the day, like we discussed in many of the other lives, we want to have something stable that we can look forward to. We can't just say, we don't like this, we don't like that, and then we just want to get rid of everything. We need to have a plan of action. If everything worked out how we want it tomorrow, what is our next step? Right? What is our next step? The whole point of this is so that we can have equality, justice, and grow. We want to grow as a society. We want to grow as a people. We want to have national goals. We want to be able to look back and say, you know something? I am proud to have been someone who walked during this time, someone who was a Jamaican during this time, someone who participated and contributed, someone who actually saw what was happening. We want to create opportunities where we are building as a nation. We are coming together, and we're not just working and struggling to make a dollar to pay bills. All of them, something there, we need to eradicate them. So this is not just, some petty grievance we have to say, this a go on, let a go on, and whatever, and we want it to stop. No, this is a full entire circle of things that just does not support what we as a people want for ourselves and our future generations. So stage 2 is coming. As you can see, we've combined the declaration and the constitution into one document because, as we said before, we should only have one single body of law. Right? Stephanie, welcome. We should only have a single body of law. We should not have... Let me talk about this for a second. Let me put some things into context. Because I don't think a lot of people realize why we say we should not have something like a parliament. The word and the concept of matter of fact, let me just pull it up. Because I want to see what I talk about. I'm going to pull it up so that we speak lawfully. Where did I put this one? I'm going to pull it up so you can see for yourself. see if this is it. All right. No, so this is not exactly. Let's see. I'm going to bring it up so that you can see exactly what we're talking about. So I need to open this other one. 1 second. Just give me a second. I'm going to show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. All right, so here we go. We have found it. So let's go yes. So let's see what the other one is. Here we go. This is the other one. So we're going to pull up both of them so that we can speak into context what we mean when we say parliament and why we want to step away from it. Would this constitution allow people rights to be activated, or they would have to activate their rights? With this constitution, rights are already going to be activated. They would not need to be defended as we are currently doing in our society. All right, so this is the UK Parliament website. And the reason we go to this website is because this is where it originated. Okay? All right. So here, you can see how far you had to dig to get to this section. So you had to go UK Parliament, about Parliament, how Parliament works, what is the role of Parliament, relations with other institutions, Parliament, and Crown. So this says, along with the House of Commons and the House of Lords, the Crown is an integral part of the institution of Parliament. At them say so, you know, and me. Parliament is an institution. It is a corporation. It is a legal construct. The king plays a constitutional role in opening and dissolving parliament and approving bills before they become law. Does this remind you of someone? Does this remind you of the GG? So the same thing that they do in England, it is the same thing that they do in Jamaica and in other locations as well that they consider to be the Commonwealth. Right? All right. Parliament. Let us take a look at what Parliament means. The highest legislative authority in the United Kingdom. Made up of the House of Commons, the House of Lords, and the King, who is the UK's current hereditary monarch. So Parliament is basically the lawmaking body, the highest legislative. So legislative means what? The legal authority that creates or modifies laws. Right? So if we are to maintain a parliament, we cannot remove ourselves from the crown. Let me repeat that. Based on the origins and the current definition of parliament, if we are to separate ourselves or if we are to remain with a parliament, we automatically fall under the authority of the crown. So people who want to go in parliament will not do good for the people. You don't have the power to do any good. Right? Okay. The crown. This is another way of referring to the monarchy. You remember the law student that came over here and said the crown is simply symbolic? I wonder if him there. I wonder if the law student ever come back. So, the monarch is not symbolic in any way. Okay? The monarch is an active authority in all Commonwealth nations. It don't matter what they want to call themselves or what they want to call them laws or them parliament. In the United States, they call it what? The General Assembly? You know, or they call it the Senate and the House and all that. It don't matter what you want to call it. If you have a parliament, or if you even have a Congress, I'll go as far as saying that, it is still colonial. It is all the creation of the British. And me I say so, you know. You can read this for yourself. We're on, let me tell you the website, parliament.uk. You can go there and click on the About Us and you can go through all of these different sections. So, and I may make up this for tell you and I explain nothing. You can go and read it for yourself. So if we are to have a parliament, we can never be sovereign as a nation. I hope that answers several questions. Opening and dissolving parliament. Sorry, we skip one. So you see, the crown is another way of referring to the monarchy, which again, the monarchy up here, so, is the king and, you know, whosoever is under them, right? Which is, so, let me read it again more, I read it into context. This is the crown. This is another way of referring to the monarchy, which is the oldest part of the system of government in this country. Time has reduced the power of the monarchy and today it is broadly ceremonial. You remember the law student was saying this? It is broadly ceremonial. The current UK monarch is King Charles III. Now, let me ask you a question. They say the crown today is broadly ceremonial, right? What do you mean ceremonial? What ceremony is going on? What kind of ceremony are you talking about? Did you know that every session of parliament, and you probably hear about this the other day, where someone touched the scepter, right? Which is placed in front of parliament before they can talk, before they can open and do any kind of session, right? They have to have that so-called ceremonial staff in front of parliament before they can proceed, right? So when they say it is ceremonial, nobody is asking this question of what do you mean ceremonial? What kind of ceremony is taking place? You notice how they just casually put it there so, and then just run on to the next thing? What do we know a ceremony to be? A ceremony is like a ritual. A ceremony is just like a practice, something you do over and over again to get something done, right? We're not going to go into all those details. But again, as you can see, the words are in front of you. Appointing a government. The day after a general election, the king invites the leader of the party that won the most seats in the House of Commons to become prime minister and to form a government. How much time I tell you about this? I tell you I have receipts, right? Let us zoom in a little bit. I told you I have receipts, right? All of this is public, you know, so I'm not showing you no private nothing. This is not secret. This is something you can go on Google and find. They tell you out in the open. Okay? It says appointing a government. So if someone can appoint a government, that means they can control the government. Wayne, lawful, welcome. If someone can appoint something or someone, doesn't that mean the creation is subordinate to the creator? All right. Now hear this, because I spoke about this before, and people, some people think say I was over exaggerating what I was explaining. So here you go from the horse's mouth. The day after a general election, the king invites the leader of the party that won the most seats in the House of Commons to become prime minister. And so two things happen. So the leader of the party that won is invited to the House of Commons to become prime minister and to form a government. Did you notice it did not say they are going to continue the government? It says they invite the individual in to form a government. Interesting. Because remember, let us put this into context. Opening and dissolving Parliament. The Crown opens Parliament through the state opening, marking the beginning of every parliamentary year. The Crown also dissolves Parliament before a general election. So no government exists before the election starts. How much time I tell you this? This is also in the Jamaica Order and Council 1962. They tell you it is the people who are part of this ceremonial thing that keeps resurrecting this ancient idea of a government. Let us say that again. You see, regardless of whether or not you are conscious of something, it's just like if you take up one knife and peel one orange, right? And you dash with the skin and you eat the orange. It doesn't matter whether or not you know that the skin can be used for different ailments, The fact of the matter is, you go and you remove the skin and you eat the fruit. You discarded everything else. So, you actually take part in this ceremony. And you don't know what's going on. You just go out there and you become a part of something that is traditional. Something that is a ceremonial. It is a ritualistic thing. Something that is done over and over and over again. And again, it is what is written here. I am not telling you nothing new. This is just something that you may not have paid attention to before. But it is there. It is not secret. Nobody is hiding anything. It is just that your attention is elsewhere. So the Crown dissolves Parliament. So no government exists. Every 5 years, you get your freedom. Every 5 years, you get your freedom. And then comes the election. Because you don't know what the words mean. you continue to participate in the ceremonies. It looks like it is fun. It looks like it is for the people. It looks like it is for the greater good. We are told that if we are not controlled, if we are not governed, then we would be savages. We are told that if we don't have the laws and the rules and the regulations, and if we don't have people to make laws, that there would be anarchy, that there would be so much destruction. But have we ever witnessed this? That is correct. That is correct. If the people don't vote, Parliament cannot exist. Easy 123 me says, so let's say you get rid of Parliament. What system do you replace it with? It sounds like you're new to the live. This is why we're doing constitutional drafting over here. The constitutional draft already has ingrained in it the new form of government. So this is not something where you say, get rid of everything, we don't want that, we don't want that. No. We have already put the measures in place to create a sovereign government. Okay? All right. The rest of this is not really that important, right? Crown speech and royal assent. But let us take a look at what they say. The King's speech. The Crown informs Parliament of the government's policy, ideas, and plans for the new legislation in a speech delivered from the throne in the House of Lords. Although the King makes the speech, the government draws up the content. I never go into this. Royal assent. When a bill has been approved by a majority in the House of Commons and the House of Lords, it is formally agreed to by the Crown. This is known as the royal assent. This turns a bill into an act of Parliament, allowing it to become law in the UK. Now, this is interesting, because I talked about this before. Let us read this again so we can get some context. It says, when a bill has been approved by a majority in the House of Commons and the House of Lords, it is formally agreed to by the Crown. Right? This is known as royal assent. It turns a bill into an act of Parliament. So we just went through each of these sections, right? The only participation by the people is what? Voting. The only participation of the people is voting. So the government is run by an authoritarian external force. It is not run by the people. So after you vote, you are pretty much just pushed aside. And then the government is now autonomous. It makes its own decisions. It proposes its own bills. It proposes anything that it feels needs to go into law, right? Whatever it is that year. Then just propose it, they agree to it, and they put it into force and effect. No discretion. No discussion with the people is outlined. Nothing where the people participate in governance. So, if the people have no part of the rulemaking that affects them, right? The people have no part nor power in what happens in government. Why are we voting? Because really and truly, the idea of government is to really serve the people. It is to serve the purposes of the people. It is for the people to lay out the problems they have, and the government is hired on a temporary basis. This is why you have the dissolution of parliament, the dissolving of parliament, right? So you give them the job for 4 years and they're supposed to go out there and do the job. But we, the people in today's day and age, we don't tell the government to do nothing. We are not invited to submit our grievances. So if we don't have any part of the government, why are we participating in voting? So like I said, people, more will why are we threatened to follow rules we didn't consent to? It is should I say this? It is cultural trauma and also cultural amnesia. Right? The trauma reinforces the fear. The only reason we have not taken action yet is because the ones who are brave enough to disregard life, disregard the comforts of living, they are captured, they are tortured, they are taken out of society so that they cannot continue to influence uprising. That is why. You see, those in the past who would educate people and tell people exactly what's going on, the problem is there had to be a leader. And if the leader can be identified, then the leader becomes a target. And if the leader becomes a target and no one has the plans, no one has the blueprint, no one has the information that the leader was trying to get out, then the movement effectively stops. This is why the constitutional draft is public. Right? If something were to happen, all I want to have a copy of it. Right? So that means that anyone in the future can continue the work. And as a matter of fact, there are measures in place to release the additional information in case anything is to happen. So, even if something happens, then you would still see the rest of the progress that is necessary to complete something like this. So there is no stopping it. There is no stopping it. It has to happen because the ancestors deemed it so. I'm going to soon hear more about that. See? I'm going to soon hear more about that. But onwards and forwards to stage 2. So we're going to finish up the polishing. We're going to finish up the progress. We're going to finish up stage 1. Like we said before many times, we cannot take action without proper knowledge and without the proper foundation. Because when you take action, you need to know what you're going to do next. While you are in battle, it is not the time to learn. It's just execution time. You see it? So, we're going to continue on Wednesday. We're going to finish up the rest of the suggestions. We're going to go back through. Right? Not even the most powerful army can stop an idea whose time has come. Exactly. Powerful quote. Right? We're going to continue constitutional drafting Wednesday evening. And we're going to go through some more materials and ensure that we start bringing up the vibration shortly. Zine? So big up on yourself. Thank you again for joining. And we're going to continue on Wednesday. And like I always say, bring on a pen and a paper. Alright? For those of you who are new and you want to see what was discussed in the past, you can still go on the constitutional draft page. Right? And if you scroll down and you continue scrolling, you will get to the replays. So all of the constitutional draft sessions are here on voiceofjamaica.com on the constitutional draft page. So from session 1 all the way to, I think we're at 27. Let's see how far we reach. 26, 27, 28. So this is 29. So we have 28 sessions so far. So if you want to go and look at all the interesting things we've covered thus far on constitutional drafting, you can do so on voiceofjamaica.com and click on New Constitution and scroll down. Alright? So that is it for tonight. Big up on yourself, and we'll continue on Wednesday. Lawful, always.